The black sheep table was positioned at the far edge of the Riverside Manor ballroom, where my brother's wedding reception glittered with political ambition and social climbing. Table 26. I sat alone at the outermost table, practically in the coat check area. From my exile, I could barely see the head table where my brother Stephen and his wife Georgina celebrated with senators, lobbyists, and political operatives. "We need to keep Jonathan away from the important guests," Georgina had told the coordinator this morning, not bothering to whisper. "He's the family embarrassment. No career, no connections, nothing we can work with. Put him somewhere he can't damage Stephen's networking opportunities." The family failure. At 39 and seemingly adrift, I'd become the cautionary tale, the brother who dropped out of the family law practice, disappeared for years and reappeared with no impressive title to show for it. What they didn't know, what I'd been legally prohibited from discussing until the security clearance review completed this week, was that my aimless wandering had been 15 years serving in classified roles across 3 government agencies. My current position was National Security Advisor to the President, coordinating intelligence operations and foreign policy decisions that most citizens would never know about. Some vague government job in D.C., Dad had explained to Georgina's political family at the rehearsal dinner. Nothing like Stephen, he's positioning himself for a congressional run. Real power, real influence. My last briefing had been in the Situation Room with the President and Joint Chiefs of Staff. But classified work doesn't come with business cards you can hand out at cocktail parties. My phone buzzed, the secure White House line. I stepped into the empty service corridor, away from the reception. "Reeves," I answered quietly. "Mr. Reeves, Overwatch reports a situation developing," Chief of Staff Morrison said, using our code for the President's protective detail. "POTUS is insisting on attending your brother's wedding. Says, and I quote, 'My National Security Advisor's family needs to understand who he actually is.'" I closed my eyes. "When? Motorcade is 12 minutes out." He cleared his schedule himself. Said this was personal. "The venue hasn't been secured. Secret Service advance team arrived 40 minutes ago. You didn't notice them because they're good at their jobs." Morrison's tone held amusement. "Sir, respectfully, the President wants to make a point. He's rather annoyed about how your family treats you. This will cause chaos." "Sir." "That appears to be the intent." I returned to table 26 as dinner service began, for everyone except my forgotten corner. From my exile, I watched Stephen's political wedding unfold like a campaign event. Georgina's father was a 3-term congressman. Her mother ran a powerful lobbying firm. Her brother served as chief of staff to a senator. The Reeves-Thornton union represented exactly the political advancement Stephen had orchestrated. The toasts began. Georgina's father gave a speech about building political legacies. Stephen's law partner talked about power and influence. Then Stephen stood, his politician's smile practiced and bright. "I want to thank everyone who made this possible. To my parents who taught me the value of real achievement. To Georgina's family who welcomed me into their circle of influence." He paused, scanning the room. "And I want to acknowledge that not everyone finds their path in life. Some of us build careers, make connections, create real impact. Others drift." Polite murmurs rippled through the crowd. Several guests glanced toward my distant table. "My brother Jonathan dropped out of the family practice 15 years ago. We haven't quite figured out what he's been doing since then. Some government position apparently. Nothing he can really talk about." Stephen's tone was sympathetic condescension. "But we love him anyway. Even the black sheep deserve a place at the table, albeit a distant one." Laughter. Knowing looks. Dad nodded approvingly. Georgina's political family smiled with practiced sympathy. I checked my watch. 8 minutes. My phone buzzed. "POTUS en route. This is going to be memorable." Morrison. At exactly 7:43 p.m., the distant sound of helicopter rotors cut through the reception noise. Stephen paused mid-speech, confused. Other guests looked around. Through the windows, the distinctive silhouette of Marine One appeared, flanked by support helicopters. The venue manager rushed in, followed by Secret Service agents in suits, earpieces visible. They moved through the ballroom with professional efficiency, taking positions at exits and sightlines. Georgina had gone pale. Her congressman father had actually stood up, recognition dawning. The music stopped. Conversations died. Everyone watched as more agents entered, followed by the White House Chief of Staff, and then the President of the United States walked into the ballroom. He looked around with that familiar expression from press conferences, then his eyes found me at table 26. Jonathan. There you are. Every head in the room swiveled between the President and my exile table. He crossed the ballroom with confident strides, Secret Service detail maintaining formation. He walked past the head table, where Stephen's mouth had fallen open, past the congressman's table where Georgina's father had gone completely white, past all the political operatives and lobbyists, straight to table 26 at the edge of the room. Apologies for the dramatic entrance, the President said, clasping my shoulder warmly. Cabinet meeting ran long. But I couldn't miss your brother's wedding, wanted to finally meet the family you've mentioned. The silence was absolute. Mr. President, you didn't need to come, I said, following basic protocol while internally calculating the diplomatic chaos this would cause. Nonsense. After the week we've had? After you successfully navigated that crisis with the foreign minister? After your strategy prevented what could have been an international incident? He glanced around, taking in the isolated table, the distance from everyone important. Though I'm curious why they seated my national security advisor at table 26. Usually we place senior White House officials somewhere more prominent. Stephen had descended from the head table like a man walking through a nightmare. Georgina followed, her political smile frozen in place. Jonathan, you never mentioned you were. Stephen's voice cracked. National Security Advisor to the President? I said calmly. You never asked what I did. You called it some vague government job. You stopped inquiring about my career because you assumed it was insignificant. The congressman had pushed through the crowd, his practiced politician's demeanor barely masking his panic. Mr. President, if we'd known you were attending, if we'd known Jonathan held such a position. He holds the position regardless of whether you knew, the President said coolly. Jonathan Reeves is one of the finest strategic minds in government. He's briefed me on matters of national security almost daily for 3 years. His judgment has influenced decisions affecting millions of Americans and our relationships with dozens of nations. He turned to Stephen, his expression sharp. Your brother coordinates with intelligence agencies, military leadership and foreign governments. He's in the Situation Room during crises. He's cleared for information most senators will never see. But apparently that's less important than a congressional campaign. Georgina looked like she might be sick. Her lobbying firm mother was frantically whispering to someone on her phone, probably trying to understand how they'd missed this. Dad had joined the growing crowd around table 26, Mom trailing behind, both looking utterly lost. Jonathan, son, we had no idea your position was so senior. You never explained. I couldn't explain most of it. Security clearances prohibit discussing classified work. But you could have shown interest. Could have respected my choices without understanding every detail. Kept my voice level. Instead you called me the family failure. You seated me at table 26. You told your political friends I was drifting aimlessly. The President's Chief of Staff had appeared with additional chairs. The Secret Service had established a secure perimeter, transforming the entire atmosphere. This was no longer just a political wedding. It was a presidential visit, documented and scrutinized. Phones had appeared throughout the room. The president at a private wedding was already making news. Political operatives were recalculating everything. Georgina's family connections suddenly looked less impressive compared to the man standing at table 26. Stephen approached our repositioned seating, his politician's confidence completely shattered. Jonathan, I didn't know. You should have told me. Should have told you what? That my work matters? That I've been serving my country? That dropping out of your law practice was the best decision I ever made. I paused. You didn't want to hear it, Stephen. You wanted me to be the failure so you could be the success. We can fix this, Georgina said desperately. We're sorry. We'll include you properly. I don't need inclusion based on who validated me, I said quietly. I needed respect before the president walked in. I needed family who valued service over status. I needed people who understood that some of the most important work happens in rooms without cameras or press releases. The president checked his watch. Jonathan, I should go. Early security briefing tomorrow. But I wanted your family to understand exactly who you are and what you do. He addressed the room at large. This man helps keep America safe. He coordinates responses to threats most citizens will never know existed. He's brilliant, dedicated, and irreplaceable. And any family would be lucky to have him. As the president prepared to leave, with full motorcade and security protocol that left the wedding guests speechless, he paused at the microphone. Apologies for disrupting the celebration. I just wanted to ensure everyone here knows what an extraordinary person Jonathan Reeves is. The work he does matters deeply. The country is safer because of him. And any family would be proud to call him their own. He looked directly at Stephen's table. I hope you'll remember that. The room erupted in stunned applause as he exited. The wedding attempted to continue, but everything had changed. Stephen stood near the head table, no longer the most important person in the room. Georgina's political connections seemed diminished. The lobbyists and operatives were all discussing the implications. I remained at table 26, now surrounded by Secret Service, White House staff, and suddenly very interested guests. Stephen returned, his voice small. Jonathan, I'm sorry. I've been horrible to you. Called you a failure when you were serving the country. I didn't know. You didn't ask, I said. You measured success by your standards. Money, titles you could brag about, connections you could leverage. You never considered that meaningful work might look different from your ambitions. Mom touched my arm, tears streaming. We're so proud of you. We just didn't understand. I've been doing this work for 15 years, Mom. 15 years you could have shown interest. Could have supported my choices even without understanding the details. Could have trusted that I knew my own path. Dad cleared his throat. Can we start over? Can we fix this? I don't know, I said honestly. That depends on whether you can value me for who I am, not just because the president validated my career. Whether you can respect service that doesn't come with public recognition. Whether you can finally see me as something other than the black sheep. As the reception continued in chaos, political operatives trying to understand what had happened, Georgina's family attempting damage control, Stephen's campaign dreams recalibrating, I sat at table 26 and answered secure messages. Crisis in the Middle East required consultation. Allied intelligence had new information. The morning briefing needed preparation. The black sheep table was still at the edge of the room. But now everyone understood exactly who'd been sitting there all along. The family failure was keeping the nation safe. The drifter was advising the president. The embarrassment was essential personnel. They just never bothered to look beyond their own definitions of success. By morning, every outlet would cover the story. By next week, Stephen's political aspirations would be forever linked to the brother he'd dismissed. The president had made his point. Some of the most important people work in silence. And table 26 was exactly where I'd chosen to be. Away from political theater, focused on work that actually mattered. The black sheep had never needed their approval. The country did. The next morning, my phone exploded before dawn. The president's surprise appearance had generated international headlines. POTUS defends national security advisor at family wedding, was trending across every platform. Political analysts were dissecting the implications. Security experts were praising the president's loyalty to his team. By 6 a.m., I had 473 missed calls. News networks wanted exclusive interviews. Political podcasts requested appearances. Even late-night talk shows were calling, somehow finding humor in the black sheep who briefed the president. Stephen called 19 times before 7 a.m. Each voicemail progressed from apologetic to desperate to politically calculating. The final one, Jonathan, my campaign manager says this could actually help us. Your position adds credibility to our family. We should coordinate messaging. I deleted it without responding. Georgina texted, the congressman wants to meet with you. Discuss potential collaboration on defense policy initiatives. This could be mutually beneficial. I blocked the number. At the morning briefing, the president smiled as I entered the situation room. Sleep well. 3 hours, sir. The Middle East situation required attention. I saw your preliminary analysis. Excellent work. He paused. Also saw the overnight polling. Apparently defending my national security advisor at a wedding boosted my approval rating. Who knew basic human decency was so popular? The Joint Chiefs chuckled. The Secretary of Defense nodded approvingly. Your family's been calling the White House switchboard, the Chief of Staff mentioned. Your brother wants a meeting. Your mother requested a photo opportunity. The congressman, your new brother-in-law's father, suddenly wants to discuss Intelligence Oversight Committee matters. Standard response to all of them, I said. They don't get special access because we're related. Already done, sir. The briefing continued. Threats assessed, strategies discussed, decisions made that would never appear in press releases. Real work. Meaningful work. The kind of work that didn't require wedding receptions or family approval. After the meeting, the president pulled me aside. Too much yesterday. I know you value privacy. It needed to happen, sir. They needed to understand. They called you the family failure, he said quietly. While you were preventing wars and coordinating intelligence operations. While you were making decisions that kept Americans safe. That level of dismissal. He shook his head. Sometimes people need reminding that visible success isn't the only kind that matters. He was right. My phone buzzed with another message from Stephen. Jonathan, please. The campaign is struggling. If you could just make one public appearance supporting me, just one photo, it would help tremendously. After everything our family has done for you. After everything they'd done for me. The irony was almost perfect. They'd excluded me, dismissed me, called me the black sheep. Now they wanted to use my position for their political advantage. I typed back, I serve the country, not your campaign. I work in national security, not political theater. You don't get to dismiss me for 15 years and then claim credit when my work becomes public. That's not how this works. His response came immediately, you're being selfish. This family made you who you are. I stared at the message for a long moment, then replied, no, Stephen. This family had nothing to do with who I became. I built this career despite your dismissal, not because of your support. The president reminded everyone of that yesterday. Don't make me remind you again. I blocked his number too. At my desk in the West Wing, I reviewed intelligence briefings and policy recommendations. Real work awaited. The world didn't stop because my family finally understood what I'd been doing for 15 years. My assistant knocked. Sir, security just turned away your father at the gate. He doesn't have clearance and tried to claim family emergency access. Standard protocol applies, I said. No exceptions for relatives. Understood. Also, the wedding photographer called. Wants to know if you'd like copies of photos from yesterday. Apparently he got several good shots after the president arrived. I smiled. Tell him to send them to Stephen. I'm sure my brother would love photos of the moment he realized he'd been calling the wrong person a failure. Table 26 had taught them all a lesson they'd never forget. The black sheep was exactly where he needed to be, protecting the nation while they played politics. And that was the only validation I'd ever needed.